Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's social media workshop, Leveling Up, getting that social media strategy game on lock. And we are here today with myself, Rasul Shayer, small business advisor here at Wakeif, and our co-presenter, and actually our main presenter. I'm actually playing Robin to her Batman today. In terms of I'll be in the co-pilot seat, but she'll be driving this thing on down the street and giving you guys, ladies and gents, and everybody, all the great information in terms of social engagement, what it means, what you should do, what you can do, what to think about, what to consider, all these things and more. Just a quick background about myself. I've been in the social media and digital space probably for just south of 13 or 14 years. Started with starting my own company some years back and helping organizations from small startups and small businesses up to Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies in terms of understanding what is this stuff called digital, what is this stuff called social. And so with that being the case, completely enjoyed the space. And once again, it's an ongoing and evolving landscape, as we all know. As a matter of fact, Joe's going to touch upon this a little bit later on, but as we all experience, if we're on social media regularly, the blackout that's happened a few weeks back with Facebook and Instagram in terms of, wow, okay, what do I do now? I am no longer online because things have shut down. Did we panic? Was it not a big deal? But once again, that's just an example of as a constant changing evolution and landscape happens, what do we do? How do we react? How do we strategize and plan for things like that and things we not even be able to see? Now, obviously, with the pandemic that we're still kind of still working through, things kind of went to digital, went to online. So always things are happening, things are always changing, and there's always room to grow and learn and even go back to some of the basics and relearn some of the things that we've been doing with respect to our social media engagement. So just a little bit of background about myself. And so I'm going to just share real quickly some information with respect to our presenter here. Joe Barrantes is basically, just really honestly your social media guru. I could go into all the specifics about her background, but I'll let her do that, but I probably would be here forever. She has so many accolades to her name and to her sort of her resume, but she's been in education. She's been working with startups and nonprofits for some time now, and her company is PM for Impact. And so honestly, folks, you guys are in for a great treat. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the microphone and the presentation over here to Joe. Take it away. And I'm going to sit here and be quiet and go ahead and let you run the show from here on out. So enjoy, folks. Joe is on the mic. Hope you enjoy.
Wow, what an intro. I loved it. Car references, like all of it. Love it. Thank you, Rasul. So thank you, everybody, joining. I can see some people, East Coast, West Coast, having breakfast with us, having lunch with us. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you get some value out of this. As Rasul mentioned, my name is Joanna Barrantes. I go by Joe, so feel free to call me that, and I'm the founder of PM for Impact. I help small businesses and solopreneurs gain visibility and build community. But let me go ahead and just get this party rolling and start share my screen so we can get started. You guys see my screen?
Yes, we do. At least I know I can. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So let's get started. So we just went through, sort of the background, but let's get to some fun stuff. Just a few fun facts. I'm actually was born and raised in Peru, and I moved to the States about 11. So my first language is actually Spanish, and I Spanglish a lot. So watch out, people. You might get to practice your Spanish sometime along this presentation. I am a bilingual education advocate. Bilingual education is really close and dear to my heart. As someone who grew up without it and sort of had to get some of that on her own, and how I use it for my job currently. I'm a huge Marvel fan. Bonus points if you can recognize this quote and who it comes from. So feel free to put it in the chat, actually, if you know it. And I had a jig pet as a kid. So there you go. That's kind of what you do sometimes. You have a different pet as a kid. So what are we doing today? So today we are creating a strategy. You know, as small businesses and organizations with small teams, we wear a lot of hats. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to think about the media and marketing just in general. But the best thing that we can do to work smarter and not harder is to make a plan. So today we are going to create a strategy. We're going to look at where we are with our current efforts. We are going to get the chisme about what's happening with our competitors, what they might be doing, and maybe what we don't want to do that they're doing. Get clear on the source of your content. You are already producing things that could be shared. And so we're just going to gain some clarity on that. We're going to think of the journey that our client takes from how they learn that we exist to how they finally make a commitment to join forces with us, right? And to buy from us, to get, you know, our services. We're going to think about the audience, who we're talking to. That's so important. You'll hear so many people say this, but when you talk to everybody, you talk to no one. If you get one thing out of today's workshop, is that we really have to think specifically of who we're talking to. And you notice who mentioned that blackout. And I think that the Facebook and Instagram blackout, and really, hopefully what that can do for us in terms of reflection is think, what are the other options, marketing options, awareness options that we can think of where social media can be complementary, right? Social media can be so volatile sometimes that it's good for us to start fostering other outlets that might complement it. And so we'll think of what are some entry points that will help people know that we exist. Oh, my favorite thing, we're going to figure out what are key performance indicators. Like, we have to measure. Otherwise, we don't know if what we're doing is working. And sharing some just best practices on things you can think of as you post. And then finally, if you're just ready to get your social media out of your hands, you're done with it, you don't want to deal with it anymore, and you want to find out how you can outsource, we'll go through some few slides to help you sort that out. Okay, so
Can I jump in real quick, Joe? Can I just jump in real quick?
Yes.
I am absolutely remiss, and I apologize for this, but real quickly, folks, if you have any questions, please post in the Q&A. Joe will be periodically pausing to answer any questions that folks may have, but please don't be shy. Probably heard this 1,000 times, no question is a stupid question, especially with social media. There's so many things out here, so many moving parts. So please, by all means, drop your Q&As or questions, and then we'll definitely get to them. And just want to put that in there. So don't feel shy, don't be afraid, ask questions. We are here to answer questions and get your engagement and thoughts, and hopefully get you good information. So I'm going to shut up, Joe, on that. Back to you.
No, thank you for reminding me that. And I just checked the chat box too. Yes, Captain America. That's a Captain America quote. Yes, we can do this all day. Sorry, just had to make sure I throw that out there. Okay, so let's start with some basics. Oh man, look at the wild, crazy world of social media here. So there are a lot of platforms out there. Some of these might be familiar to you, you're already part of, like they're the quote unquote big ones. But there's a lot of stuff out there that can also be helpful to you, complementary, or that are just popping up, and it'll be good for us to think about. I'm actually curious, and I would love for you to chime in the chat box. Are any of these icons new to you? Are any of these things that you haven't heard of at all? A few of these are actually quite recent. I feel like I may even be missing some stuff that didn't make it to this presentation. But you know, for example, one of the big ones is TikTok, but you know, that's gaining a lot of popularity. But it can be overwhelming to think of like, oh, should I be, which one of these is best for me and for my business? You know, I don't want to go into a brand new platform and have to learn things all over again and, you know, double my work. And so it's good to think about what's out there, but just keep in mind and know that you don't have to be on every single platform. And there are some of these new platforms that may be complementary, may be good to think about when you have a resource, right? And it's not really part of your plan, but it's something that you can share to gain visibility. So let's move on, but we can think of starting from a foundation. So there are some platforms that are sort of more ideal for service-based and some that are more ideal for product-based. Now, if we had the capacity and a great budget, right, to really dedicate, we could probably just pick any of these and make it work. But because we're sort of in a smaller or maybe in an earlier stage of our business, we may not have that capacity, and that's okay. We can think of whether we are a business that provides services or provides products, and then just lean into the platforms that are ideal or made for that. So for obviously a Pinterest and an Instagram it's ideal for products, and something like Clubhouse, like LinkedIn, are great to share and value and leadership view right through those platforms. So just to give you an idea, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to, this is not set in stone, but it's just good to think about. So the other, before we move forward, actually, I just forgot that I do have a tool that I wanted to share with everybody, so that you, as we go through the strategy, you can start kind of jotting down notes and start thinking about how this might apply to your business and how you want to create your strategy. So let me put it in the chat box. You won't be able to edit it, so go ahead and make a copy so that you can edit on your own. Hopefully you got it and everybody sees it in there. Oh, wonderful. You'll see some basic stuff at the top of that document that you can fill out at your own time. Name of business, what it produces, it serves. A really great thing to always think about, why did you start this business in the first place? And that really does become valuable as you think of how to communicate the value of your business later on, whether it's on social or anywhere else. And think about your goals. And I know that it might be tempting for us to think, no, but I just want to make sales. Like, that's my goal. But I would really encourage you to think or stretch that a bit further. What does that mean right now? Does that mean gaining new customers? Does that mean retaining current customers? Does that mean launching a product? Because it's really going to help you think of how, working backwards from there. What are the milestones that are going to get me there? And then what are the things that I should measure to let me know that my strategy is working? But certainly jot down as many things as come up for you right now. And hopefully if you can allocate some time after this presentation, add more things to it. And I do have a link on the bottom of this page if you wanted to get more support filling this out and sort of thinking more of as something, an individual strategy for your business, that you can reach out to me. So moving on. So some common issues and questions that I get a lot when people struggle with social media and just digital marketing in general. That, so-and-so mentioned this tactic, this strategy. I've tried so many things. I really don't see results. I'm frustrated. No matter how much I post, it can't seem to be growing my following. I don't know what's going on. I run out of ideas. I don't know what else to post. I don't know. And for, everybody's on TikTok. Should I go? Should I do it? Should I make the jump? Do any of these, chime in the chat box, do any of these resonate with you? Do any of these sound like this something you're struggling with currently? No, okay, hopefully maybe somebody's out there. Okay, so let's get started on the first thing. The current state of your social media efforts. So where are you right now? What are the platforms that you are in? How often do you post? How many followers do you have so far, right? And are you the one posting or someone else in your team doing it? That's really important to know so that you can plan accordingly. Oh, I just saw somebody lack of consistency, yes. And then number 2, gotcha. this is an important step because we want to be able to measure progress. We want to know where we started, right? So that at the end of the month, we can see, oh, we've seen this much progress along the way. And so it's good to take a quick little audit of where we are to see if maybe we want to add a platform or maybe let go of one, and so forth, right? So now that we have that quick, and again, after the session, you can come back and really do sort of a more full audit of where you are, but by all means, take some notes of things that are resonating with you right now in terms of the state of your current efforts.
Just quick, Joe, a couple of responses just to share, kind of let you know what the audience is sort of sharing. Someone has 1,200 followers and they're trying to figure out how to grow beyond that. And then the other one is someone said they heard they should post every day. And so I think the issue around growing, obviously, and then also I think the posting, like consistency, what should be your time frame post? I think that might be something interesting to kind of explore from your experience, what might make sense with respect to when that comes onto the table for folks.
Yes, so I think that's definitely gonna hopefully get more clarity as we move on through the strategy. What I will say right now in terms of should we post every day, the bottom line is, yes, the more that you use these platforms, right, the more that you put out there, the more traffic that you send out to them, the more that you're gonna get. But I think more importantly is what is your capacity? Because you could have X amount of followers, but they're not converting. And so if you have X amount of followers and they're not really becoming clients, then there's something else that we need to look at. And then the growth isn't exactly what is the issue, is how do we resonate with these current followers so that we can convert, right? And so it kind of gives us a little window. And so in terms of the frequency, I would think first of what you're able to do. Are you able to do every day? For example, I know I can't, but I'm trying to develop community in a different way. And I'm trying to, I guess, nudge the algorithm in a different way by using more features, even if it means posting less. But that's a great question. And hopefully we can, again, kind of grow on that later on too. Hopefully that helped, Dora. So as we move on, and this is also potentially tied to how often should I be posting, is what are our competitors doing? I just think it's so important, and it's going to be, I think, so enlightening for us to do a little bit of research about what are our competitors doing. Let's figure out 3 to 5 similar competitors, similar in size and audience. And I put this similar in size and audience because we might be tempted to, look at the brands as our, immediate competitors. And while it's great to go take a peek and see what they're doing and see if there's something that, we feel it's interesting, the bigger brands have a whole team behind, their marketing and a budget. And so it might be difficult for us to have and find patterns when we don't have the same capacity. But what would be interesting in terms of looking at similar sizes and audience is maybe I have a restaurant, but I share an audience with the florist in the neighborhood over or my own neighborhood. You both share an audience, so it might be interesting to look at what they're doing, as a maybe not a direct competitor, but someone where you share an audience and there might be a lot of value in looking at those practices from your end. So things that you can be looking at as you look at these competitors and what platforms are they in, which kind of answers where should I be. So if the majority of your competitors are on TikTok, I think that kind of answers your question. Not that you have to, but it might give you some, enlightenment there. Okay, maybe I should think about how I plan to be there, right? But if they're not, and they're mostly on Facebook, then you're okay, then you're in the right platform. How often are they posting? And what type of content are they posting? Are they mostly doing graphics? And is that getting engagement? Are people liking, commenting? Or are they mostly doing videos or carousel posts, right? That's something that we can look at to see how they are sharing or what they are sharing. And perhaps even more importantly, as you are doing this research, is do you see something that your competitors are doing that you're like, you know what, this is not for me? And that's super valuable. You know, maybe you're seeing the effect of something that another competitor did that didn't go well. And so that just kind of gives you like a leg up. That's something that you know what, nope, I'm not going to do that. And that's great. I will take a quick pause just to see if there are any other questions.
Yeah, no questions in the chat. And until just a minute here, then you can continue to jump. But I like what you just said, Joe, was the idea of like looking at your competitors, right? Because one thing over the years that I've been in experience is, wow, that's working great. I want to do that same thing as well. But I think you mentioned this earlier. You know, part of it is just like, you know, what is your brand value? Who are you? What are you about? Because what someone else does might not make sense for you to do, because as we all know in social media, you know, authenticity and the lack of it can be smelled miles and miles away. So definitely thinking about how you bring your own unique voice, and how you post and what is your content, how does that reverberate with who you are as a business owner and a brand. So definitely, I agree. Looking what competitors are doing, just to get an idea of like what's happening. Then also, how do you balance that with bringing your own unique and authentic voice to the space as well? So I love the way you kind of sort of position that conversation, that last bullet point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing here a comment that says, it seems like all my competitors are on TikTok and doing reels. I can't imagine doing that. It's not something I'd like to do. You know, then don't. I think part of what Rizal was mentioning too, of bringing your authentic self, also has to do with you doing things or being in the spaces where you can shine, where you can thrive, right? And if that's not TikTok, then it's not TikTok, and that's okay. Which is why we can think of fostering multiple outlets and communities, and we can think of thinking of who we're talking to, right? And we'll get to this a little later about defining our target audience, but that can also help us think of, if not TikTok, then what other places is it where I can connect with my target audience? So that's a great point of it. So moving on to the next phase is identifying and getting clear on your content source. So these are, this is content that you're already making, whether you plan to post it or not, right? And sometimes we struggle, like, what am I going to post? What am I going to? But we are already producing things. We produce services, we produce goods. If we have a brick and mortar, we have the store, what happens throughout the day, you know, before opening, after closing, our staff, they give us permission. Like, there's so many things. People love hearing about behind the scenes. So if you haven't included a behind the scenes sort of content for your strategy, like, people love that. But there's a lot, right? So if you're a restaurant, you promise your food. So now the next step is figuring out how you're going to capture that, because that's already happening. You're already producing and making food. So now the next step is just for you to figure out, okay, what is my plan to capture media for the food, right? If you write blogs or you produce a podcast, then your next step is figuring out of this blog, out of this podcast, can I take 5 posts out of this? So maybe 5 quotes, you know, and post them out, right? And that means that our blog is living a little further with them linking back to your website or linking back to your blog. But just thinking about it that way, you know, what are the things that I'm already doing, that I'm already producing, that I can then translate to social. If you produce service, well, I guess for everybody really, if you've systematized a way to get client reviews, which, you know, side note, should definitely think about what is making it as easy as possible to get reviews and feedback from your customers, so you can have more content and show more value and show that, you know, that people are getting value for your product or service. Success stories or even portfolios. So like portfolios is kind of a big one for me, you know, kind of telling the story of how we go through a process. Not only is that hopefully valuable for people to see, you know, how we're tackling a project, but it's content. It's content that we send out there. So I would encourage you in the document to start brainstorming, like, what are the things that I produce? What are the things that I do? And just kind of have it there so that you can start kind of sprinkling things into your a calendar planner. And I titled it in the document content planner and content source, and content planner. So that you can start sort of planning around, again, based on what you already produce, based on the things that you already do, that can then be shared, right? Along with perhaps going back to the point Rachel was making, things about you, your authentic self, your voice, your values, right? All those things. So now that we know where our current state, we know where we are with social media, we know what our competitors are doing, we have a good idea. We know what we can be sharing. We have our content. So now it would be a great idea for us to think about the journey that our client takes when they learn that we exist to they're committed and they're ready to purchase, right? And I mean, this is a simple journey. It can definitely be way more robust. But the way that we can start thinking about this process is thinking of your own purchasing patterns. So how do you make purchases, or how do you learn about your favorite services and products? And do you make a purchase the first time? Or, you know, does it take you seeing several social media posts? Does it take you seeing several ads? Does it take you hearing about this product or service from somebody? Think about that so that you can hopefully create an idea of what it might be like for your client and customer to learn about you, explore and see what you do and whether they like it, consider becoming a patron, and then actually being an active lead. And so now, the point of all of this is for us to think of where does social media fit in your client's journey, right? Social media might be an entry point. It might be that they found you, you know, while they were scrolling, or, you know, while they were looking at the Explore page and one of these pages, but it may not be. It may be that they learned through a post on your community Facebook page, and then they go and explore your social media pages. So it's good to think about this process, because then you are going to think a bit more about what the entry points, the awareness entry points, what are the different ways that people can learn that my business exists, so that they can then come to my social media pages to learn about what I do and how I do it and how they can work with me. So let's speculate. Here is a sample client journey. So here's what it might, like I said before, you know, this could be way more robust than this and have way more steps, right? It's really about how you think that you are building a relationship with your clients. So it might be that they learn about you through word of mouth. Maybe they Google searched. Maybe there was a hashtag that they follow and you put that hashtag on your post and that's how they found you. Maybe you wrote a blog and you shared it on a group. These are all the little things that you can start thinking about when it comes to how am I gonna be introduced to new audiences. Like, this is the stage, right? And from here, they might move on to exploration, where they go and check out your social media pages, may or may not follow you, but they're interested enough that they made it from this awareness stage to the iteration one. And if they're there enough, right, they might move on to the consideration. So it might be that they're interested in exploration, but they're not ready to move on yet. And at some point they are. Maybe it was like after the 10th post or something, where they actually start following, or they sign up to a newsletter. I mean, I think most people here understand that, if you have somebody on your mailing list, that's pretty huge. And so it doesn't really happen at the very beginning. It happens after a while. It happens after people finally see that there's value and that they want to receive that in their inbox. Or maybe they visit your website several times. And in this consideration phase, there might be a call to action that is shared that then prompts people to become an actual lead. actually sign up for your webinar, actually sign up for a newsletter, maybe even fill out the contact form, or actually make it to your brick and mortar store. So it is this multi-step process that we can think about so that we are ready, right? And then we can track different things per step. Let me pause here for a second. I don't know if you had any feedback on this, Rezu, or if I see anything.
No questions. I think everything's on point. I think one of the things we don't think about at times is this client journey. We're so concerned, and rightfully so, like, okay, I need to get some content, I need to post, and actually the execution of the social media. But then, as you just pointed out, thinking about where in this journey does it make sense to develop some social thinking, at what point also kind of think can contribute. So yeah, I think, everything you've mentioned obviously is right on point and good, great stuff.
And it's good to think too about what is it that you're going to share during your awareness stage, and what is it that you're posting in or sharing during the exploration page. So I mentioned the blog earlier, right? So maybe the blog piece is something that is sharing your closed Facebook group that you're a member of, for example, because it provides value. You're not really pitching anything. You're not saying, hey, you should come be my client. You're just sharing a resource, right? And if it's valuable, people will click. And if it's valuable to them, rather, is what I meant to say, people will click and they will join, right? And then they might make it to your page. But it's just a way of thinking of, again, this one source, this one content that you're already producing, and the different ways that it can be seen by people. It can be used in your strategy. You share it in this group because you think it can provide value to that group. And then you break that blog into maybe 5 pieces of content, but then make it to that exploration page because, look, maybe they'll click on that blog or not, but it doesn't mean that they'll make it through the whole thing, right? And it doesn't mean that you can remind them in the exploration page once they're on your social media platforms, this valuable blog exists and they should go check it out again. And so it's all those different steps and maybe layers to showing that you are a valuable resource and they should invest in you.
Joe, there's a question about ads. I don't know if you wanted to get into that or sort of, or if you wanted something, but the question is, do we need to buy ads? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I do. So I don't want to hate on ads. I don't want to be a hater. I do think that they have their time and place. What I would encourage people to think about is that an ad is not or shouldn't be a fix to something that isn't working. It should be complementary to a strategy. So, and that we do most definitely need to think about this journey. We're plotting an ad because we are thinking of the ad as a way to help us continue or strengthen the relationship that we're building. So I would encourage you to think, if the ad is going to be the first thing or the first way that someone learns about you, that means that you really need to think about your content, right? And what is the call to action to that ad? Are you asking them to join your newsletter? And why would they do that just based on an ad? So you know what? So maybe the call to action or the ad could be around a webinar, because if the webinar is valuable to them, then they're going to sign up because it's nothing like that's the call to action, right? And then that's how you that's how they became aware of you. I would definitely think of figuring out first what isn't working and what is working. And then as the next step, think, okay, now that I know what's working, I am going to amplify that and I'm going to grow that and scale that by adding an ad, if that makes sense.
I have to agree with Dora. I love the way you sort of position that, because it's true. It's like an ad ultimately is a tactic, right? But if you're not clear in your strategy and the reason why, then you could be doing ads and posting just randomly and hoping please work.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think that was great the way you responded to that. That's awesome. So I just want to share that as well. I agree with Dora. Love the way you position that.
Thank you for that question also, Dora. Thank you for that question. Yes, it's very tempting. It's very tempting. But definitely I'm saying that it couldn't work. Just think of what your business goal is around that ad. Like we said at the beginning, is it gaining new customers or is it a promotion or a new product? That might be helpful to think about. And yes, before you do that, know what is working and what isn't working, so you can go well prepared in making this investment. Okay, so I definitely want to talk a bit more about this awareness stage, but before we do that, we need to define, yes, we're on the right page, our target audience, right? And there's a lot, I feel like this could be a whole other workshop for us to really get nitty gritty on who we're talking to. But I will say that I would encourage everybody to really think specifically. Again, I mentioned this at the beginning, when you talk to everybody, you talk to no one. You are talking to one persona, one person, one customer, your ideal customer, if you would, right? For example, my target audience is not business owners. It's entrepreneurs in their early stages of their business that are starting to build a foundation for visibility in marketing. Like, that's specific. And so I would really encourage everybody to think specifically. So, if you are a restaurant owner, your target audience is not people who eat food. No, your target audience is people that live in your community, and maybe the people that love and live for happy hours. That's totally okay. Why? Because it makes a difference in how you talk to them. So and this makes a difference in how you talk to them. To give you an example, you could be posting about your happy hour on Fridays, like, hey, come and join us, we happy hour at 4 p.m. here at my location. You have an image, you send it out. But it's a world of difference from that to, hey, I know you don't want to receive another meeting link on this Friday afternoon. Let's blow off some steam and come and join a happy hour. Those are two different posts because they're for two different people. One of them will be talking to anybody. The other one knows the people that love happy hours are, people that are working, that are ready to blow off some steam, and you're talking directly to them. And that's really what the point of defining who you're talking to is. That you want to know what they struggle with, you want to know what they're frustrated about, and you won't know that until you really define who they are. How old are they? What are their goals? What are they worried about? What are their challenges, right? So that you can talk about that throughout your social media strategy, right? Like if you are in childcare, and I think this is really important because people might think that even in childcare, just anyone who has or can have children, and we could definitely push this. We can push to say, no, my target audience is first-time parents, single parents, parents with multiple children. Why? Because they have unique challenges. And hopefully we can talk to them directly and not just say, hey, everybody, we have the best childcare service, in the tri-state area or whatever. But you can communicate by saying, we know that, being first-time parents can be challenging, and you might think that you're not able to figure anything out, but we just want you to know that we are a resource to you. Those two different, messages. The second one is really about you understanding what those first-time parents are going through and connecting, right? That resonates with people. The more sort of specific and I guess human that you can be with that. And that comes from you knowing who your audience is. So really speaking to their struggles and then finding where they are. So here's the thing about defining your target audience and then going and finding them. So if you know, right, that your target audience is first-time parents, single parents, parents of multiple children, then when you are doing your research for entry points, you are going to go and figure out where they are. Maybe they are in blogs for parents. And so you can try to figure out there's a collaboration opportunity, right? And that's sort of a different outlet than just hoping that they make it to your social media page. Maybe they're in they're connected to other sections of your community because being a childcare center, you are part of this community. And so these potential parents might be part of another business within your community. And so thinking of where they are, but it will be extremely helpful for you to think of who these people are first, specifically. Not just parents, but like I said, in this particular goal, in what stage, right? So you can look for where they might be. And, going back to the previous example, share a resource. So we went through the awareness entry points, and okay, so measure everything. So this is going to be the biggest thing, and probably, I mean, arguably the most important things that you can do right now that won't take, where you don't have to build something like a full node strategy, where you can learn what's going on with your business right now. And I included a little video here because if you're familiar, and this is from Instagram, by the way, but most platforms have an insights or an analytics section where you can go back right now and see how things are doing, which posts are getting or performing best. Many times it'll tell you if there are particular times where there's more activity. And I put here as a little sample, things that you can look, metrics that you can look at if you are a product-based business or you have a service-based business, just to give you a starting point. But really, it'll have to do with your goals, right? So if you are promoting a new product, then maybe you are looking at shares, right? As opposed to impressions, particularly. And what I will say, though, that I think it's important here at the bottom is I think it's really important for you to track where your leads are coming from. If we're pouring so much effort into, I'm going to share this resource on all these other, external outlets, and I'm pouring all this effort into my social media platforms, but I'm not really sure where all of my new clients are coming from, then you don't know where to invest more resource to. So maybe the majority of your clients aren't coming from Instagram, they're coming from a Google search. And so that means that you need to pivot your marketing and try to figure out how to get more people from the Google search, which, SEO. But just to give you an idea of how then keeping track of having a systematized way where you're asking your leads, like, where'd you hear about me? So that you know where to invest your efforts, right? I just think that's so pivotal. But in terms of social media, when you look at these metrics and you look right now and you go Google and you check out your platforms, see what posts are performing best and see if you can look for patterns. Like, why were these 5 posts the best performing posts? Were they mostly graphics? Were they mostly pictures? Were they mostly videos? So that you can do more of what is working, if that hopefully makes sense. We are almost there and I don't see questions. So I'm gonna move because I know we're getting tight on time. So, found best practices and tips. Social media is social, and so as much as you can, communicate as you would communicate with a friend. I think this goes back a little to what we were mentioning earlier about being your authentic self. And the caveat here that, if you are sort of a more, I don't say serious, but I guess professional organization, you might take this with a grain of salt. But if you're not, I think there's a lot of power in sort of communicating in a way that you communicate with someone if you were in person, right? And having that same feeling. At the end of the day, social media is about that feeling. Even if it means posting less, see if you can use as many of the features of the platform that you're already in as possible. These platforms, they want to be used. It's really at the end of the day what it is. And so if you're using as many of the features, it'll probably bump you a little. Lean into your brand and into your values. There's really no time like the present to be unapologetic about why you started your business, why it meets a need, why it solves a current issue that connects with people and resonates. So really lean into that. Stay on brand as much as possible. Your colors, scheme, your fonts, stay as consistent with that as you can. Because that's how people will start recognize you, apart from most of your voice and tone and all that stuff. And the last one is a big one. I don't know if I'll have some different opinions on that, but repurpose your content. If there's something that worked great, 3-6 months ago, repost it. I will share this thing generously. Only 10% of your audience is going to see the things that you post. And so there's really, if something worked, even if it did well, it doesn't mean that everybody saw it. So to maximize your efforts, repurpose things that worked well. You should really, it would be great for you to have a list of evergreen content. Things like your, why you started this business, about you, why your brand, you can make a list. But things that then, and especially as you grow, if your goal is to grow your followership, there's people that are not going to see that. And so it'd be great to do a reintroduction.
We do have a question.
Okay.
So you about to, yeah, I think we're about to meet up. Yeah, you're about to stop, and I said we're about to have a question. There. Bam! Great minds think alike. So we have a question from Gabriella that says, "Is there a perfect time to post?"
No, there isn't. So what I would encourage you is to go look at your analytics. If you have been posting, let's just say semi-regularly, and you have I don't want to say significant, if you've been posting regularly, you should be able to go in the back. I know for sure Facebook and Instagram lets you see that. They tell you the times where there have been more activity. So, and that's going to change for everybody. So also Creator Studio. So in case, I don't know, going to your phone sometimes, I know people have different preferences, but you can see them in both. And so Creator Studio is a good tool actually that'll tell you which time and day you see most people looking at your stuff, whether they interacted with it or not. And so if you look at it by month or by quarter, then you can adjust the time that you post. And also, so I know Creator Studio lets you schedule stuff. So please, if the consistency thing is what's kind of holding you back, plan whatever amount of content that you're going to do and then just schedule it so you don't have to think about it. Yeah, hopefully that helped in answering your question.
And then also, to your point earlier about there's no perfect time to post, and go back into your analytics to kind of determine what makes sense and doesn't make sense. And then also, if you're running a campaign, right, you can be running a contest or something like that, which might be running a few weeks to maybe a month or a half, whatever it is. And so at that time, your posting could be much irregular than what you typically post, because you say, hey, folks, we got this big contest coming up in the next 2 weeks in October. We're doing a unraveling prior to Halloween, And so in that time, you might just be ramping up. And so you might see the different opportunities or different ways that the engagement is happening. So, once again, you might have your regular posting time because you're saying, wow, I'm getting a lot of engagement at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for whatever reason. And that could be ideal time. But if you're doing some type of campaign or running a contest or whatever it might, the time that you post might be completely different from that. And there might be a lot more engagement because people are like, oh my God, I want to make sure I log in every time to see what's going on because I can win something or I could get a prize or whatever the case may be. There's some great content that you're getting ready to share for whatever reason. So I think also for running campaigns is different if you're just kind of regularly doing your regular scheduled post based off an editorial calendar or something to that effect. So I just wanted to share that as well. So
yeah, that's an excellent point. The other thing that brought up, as you were saying that too, is some people worry about posting like late at night. If that's what your analytics are saying, do it. If it doesn't work, at least you'll know. And I think that's also an important thing, trying things and knowing why they didn't work, and that's crucial. That's crucial because as you are moving to the next stage where you might be ready to actually put some investment and maybe some financial investment into your strategy, into your launching your new product or whatever that may be, where that investment will make the most impact because what didn't, right? So don't be afraid of posting at night. There are, I'm definitely one of the guilty, people that checks their stuff or is logging on to social media like after 9 p.m. And so it could work. So don't diss it.
You have any contact information here, Joe, on a slide?
I do.
Please. We have folks early on saying, please post your contact because so I want to make sure folks have access to that before they wrap up here. We wrap up in the next couple of minutes or so.
Sure. And I have I want to give a tip on outsourcing. Do we have time for that, Rasul?
We got a couple of minutes. So if you want to squeeze it in, sure. I think.
All right. Let me see. So if you were thinking about how to get support in some way, shape, or form, and that maybe not entirely outsourcing, but some, right? I wanted to share a few tips that hopefully might be helpful of what to think about if you're thinking of working with somebody to either get something or just completely outsource your social media. And I would say, think of what you need. Is it a strategy, right? So kind of what we went over right now, lightly. Is it just handing over completely, or maybe it's just consulting, right? All of these are available. So think about what you need right now. And this is super important, I think. Think about your do's and don'ts. The person that's coming in to support you is not going to know, and they're going to rely on you to know, what are you okay with and what are you not okay with? So maybe you're not okay with sharing memes on social media because it's not part of your brand, and that's okay. Maybe part of your tone and voice does not include slang. That's okay. Or maybe it does and you want to include that all the way, right? And so those are things that your social media manager, content, or what have you, is going to need to know to do their best job. Think about how you want to communicate. Like, be clear on that when you start working with somebody, and keep them informed. I think sometimes we miss this, especially for some of you, if you've worked with somebody in the past. But so I'm mostly focused on social media, but if you are doing something different that's part of marketing, it would be very beneficial for me to be aware. You just have to figure out how to communicate that, maybe you want to keep them looped in and you want to let them know, like, hey, I'm going to BCC you, but you don't have to take any action. This is just for you to know and be aware. And think about how that may fit on social media. So those are just a few things to think about. I actually want to share. I heard this podcast the other day from another, this is actually an agency. And I was like, man, why am I going to rewrite, everything that she's so beautifully put together in a podcast? I might as well just share it. So I think the podcast name is On Andrea. And let me see if I can find it here and share it with you guys. She just breaks it down beautifully and gives even more things about to think about in terms of, like, should I work with a freelancer? Should I work with an agency? And what are the things that I should think about, even more than what I've just shared right now, in terms of what I need to be aware of before I think of getting help or outsourcing or just working with somebody. So, and then ta-da! Yay, the contact
Yay, contact information. Rock on. Awesome.
All of them one to one. And this is the last thing I'll say is, again, the end of the document that I shared. If you want to take this tool even further, you have more questions and you really just want to brainstorm individually about how this could apply to your business, I do have a link there where we can book a session, and we have a special grade just for, attendees here that, where you want to get some sort of more specific help. So feel free to ask questions if you're interested, or link that if you want to get more info. But we'd love to, check in and work with you guys. So, but either way, stay in touch. I love to stay in touch with everybody. So here's my contact info, and I hope you got some value out of this workshop. And I don't know if we might actually have, we might be time and time. I don't know if anybody else had any other question.
Yeah, I want to be respectful of folks' time. So thank you everyone for coming out. Joe's awesome. We actually consulted with her with Wakeif. We brought her on for some project time, and she was awesome. So please stay in contact with her. Her contact information is all there. Once again, we are at time. We wanted to go from 12 to 1, a couple minutes over, but information was great. So I don't think it was too bad to just extract a couple more minutes of your time. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Please stay safe and be on the lookout for more great stuff from Wakeif. And once again, great stuff from Joe. She's out here killing the game, just letting y'all know. So check her out. Once again, thanks for stopping by for us at your lunchtime. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Be safe, and we'll be in touch soon. Be safe, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.